And welcome back to episode number 31. 31. I'm really bad at that. Of Race the Banner podcast. I'm one of your two co-hosts. As usual here, McAtoy here with Ben Dearth. And we got Joey, is it Copponi?
It's
Copponi?
Capone.
Copponi. Joey
Capone.
Copponi
Yep.
from Inside the Monster here today to join us. He's still got the long hair, got the beard that's outgrowing me. Is it until Montgomery signs anywhere or with the Red Sox? I forget what it is.
So it was originally, I was growing my hair and beard until the Red Sox made a significant acquisition. That was the original premise. Now it's just until Jordan Montgomery signs with any professional baseball team. I don't even care if it's a major league team. If he goes to Japan, I'm cutting it. I'm looking for any excuse to get rid of it now.
That's fair. I saw a report today that he's like less now that we're basically like him signing now versus next week. It really doesn't matter for him in terms of getting ready for the season. That like he has no intention to sign before opening day because now that if he signs after opening day, a team and it's a 1 year deal, a team can't put a qualifying offer on him. So it would increase his opportunities next year versus any other standard 1 year deal.
The whole situation is disgusting. The fact that the ace, de facto ace from a couple of injuries of the World Series winning team is heading into the season without a team, and his season will be cut short. Who knows by how long? I don't know how ready he is, how loosened up he is, but his season is going to be short because of an ownership's unwillingness to spend money across the game. It's gross.
Yeah, I mean, like, the idea that like the NL Cy Young winner didn't have a team until like a week and a half ago is just unbelievably baffling. And we've had conversations on here about like ways to possibly improve the off season, and we haven't been able to come up with a change that is bulletproof and wouldn't leave a back door into making things worse.
I think the only idea that I've come up with, and I don't know how it would work. This is really rough spitball. So this is more of, I'm an idea guy, but I'm like the initial idea guy. So I'll throw it out and then somebody else has got to mold my clay into something that's actually usable. There has to be, as the off season progresses, penalties or disincentives for owners to keep waiting. So if it's a matter of increasing a price tag or something like that, where like an arbiter it puts a price on guys that minimum years, minimum AAV that have to be hit. That's the only thing I can think of, but it's all disgusting right now, man. It's an embarrassment. I mean, NFL free agency being congruent with Major League Baseball free agency is it's so stupid.
And NFL free agency is like a minute into the period in which you can legally tamper with players is like the hottest minute. At least, well, maybe not this year.
Yeah.
It took a little while, but historically speaking, the first 5 minutes of legal tampering, which is more than 48 hours before guys can actually put pen to paper, is like the most exciting part of the NFL free agency. It's like, and Matt and I always joked. I ran into him a couple weeks ago, maybe, and we were joking about how, because this was pre legal tampering period, and we were like, oh yeah, can't wait for Monday when all the agents strike all these deals within 30 seconds of legal tampering taking place, because we all know that they definitely have conversations outside of the legal tampering period, and it's like it creates an excitement for NFL fans. And I mean, the idea that like MLB owners are in some way colluding has been floated around. Whether I'm sure that there's some semblance of truth to it. I'd like to think, I don't know, call it naivete. Baseball is kind of my baby. I'm a lifelong baseball guy. I'd like to think that there's not impurities behind closed doors where owners are saying, hey, let's all create a 30-person pact that we're not going to give the likes of Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery these 6-year mega deals, because they're somehow tied to this idea that if they stop offering mega deals, they'll just disappear. Because I think that's a falsity across the league, that if they just somehow think that one free agency of no mega deals means that they'll never happen again.
They don't, because it'll take one team to not do that, and all it takes is one team to offer the mega deal.
You mean the Dodgers, who spent over $1 billion on free agents?
Yeah.
I will say that, like, real quick here, I will say, when Steve, why am I forgetting his name right now?
Cohen.
Mets owner.
Steve
Cohen. When Steve Cohen purchased the Mets, there was outcry among the other owners. And it did feel like they were saying, like, this guy's not going to play ball with us. Because I would imagine that there is some level of collusion. Are all 30 teams getting together and saying, we're not going to sign Jordan Montgomery, we're going to force him into retirement? I think probably not. No. But I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that, this is crazy what I'm about to say, that baseball might be impure in some ways, that there might be some scandals around, especially around owners. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility at all. Kike Hernandez brought it up earlier this offseason, which of all people to really pull the lid off this thing, what an appropriate guy, just the face of baseball finally speaking up. But
the fact that he got $4 million.
Yeah, I think, and like what he said was that he got an offer for $4 million. And then got another phone call 30 seconds later from another team that offered him 1 year, $4 million. And he's like, really? That doesn't happen. And it's like, I'm sure that stuff, I'm sure it happens, but like, are people colluding over Kike Hernandez? Probably not. But
I would say 100% chance they're not colluding over Kike Hernandez.
Yeah, probably not. But, if you want to reset the market and be like, holy shit, God, sorry, do you guys curse on here? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. If they're like, holy shit, adults. Guys are signing for $1 billion. 2 men just signed for $1 billion. Like, we have to reset this market a little bit. I don't think that that's crazy because it's a long-term anti-investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I get the idea. Ohtani, I feel like is kind of an anomaly in baseball, right? We haven't seen anybody do what he's done to the level that he's done it. Like since, and I don't want to draw the comparison, but in terms of what he brings to the table, we haven't seen it since Babe Ruth. Nobody's been as effective doing both things really since Babe Ruth, 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So, right, but people are already talking about it with Soto. People are already throwing out $600 million with Soto, which should sound crazy, but it just doesn't. I don't know if that's an actual realistic number, but I think they're trying to reset the market to a place where that number is entirely off the table.
Yeah, and at least with Soto, right? Like Soto's 25. Like Ohtani's not old, don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things. But I think an owner, in terms of wide spread across baseball, could stomach the idea of a guy like Juan Soto getting a mega deal, because Juan Soto is not going to be a guy who at the end of that contract is going to look like Ohtani at the end of his, strictly on age alone. And I don't know how much that really factors in, because
depends how many years you give him.
Well, Soto, so you're talking 12, 13 years. Like it's really,
yeah. So if you give what Ohtani get, 10,700?
10,750.
So he's going from what?
7 even. I'm sorry.
7.
He's going from age 29 to 39. So if Soto at age 26, is he going to be a free agent? He's probably going to get a 13 to 14 year deal. Like someone will, and it will be an absurd amount of money. He's getting to the point where he's a top 10 hitter in this league, but like comparatively to Ohtani, it's not close.
No,
Ohtani's a significantly good, obviously Soto doesn't pitch at all, but he's also a very good pitcher. And I know that Ohtani DHs instead of playing the field, but it's not like Soto's a Gold Glove outfielder either. So that you're paying him that much money for solely his bat is just kind of baffling to me.
It is just rumors and it is just rumblings. It is just talking, among fans and media personalities. So I don't know how much credit to give it, but the very fact that nobody is gawking at 600 and people are like, yeah, I know it could be crazy is insane. Like, it doesn't matter that he's a couple years younger than Ohtani. It just,
because they're going to give him a longer term deal.
It doesn't matter that it's 3-4 more years. You're still talking an AAV of, oh God, I'm trying to do math right now. If you're talking $600 million over 13 years, that would be an AAV of
46.
46.15.
$46 million
ridiculous.
into his late 30s. Yeah. And the thing
It's
is, I think
ridiculous.
that's what the owners want to avoid. They want to avoid a complete market inflation, especially while, I mean, who knows how true it is, but they're all crying poor that, baseball is struggling and whatever. And it does get to a point where even in my head, I'm like, does it make financial sense? Like, is there a point where like the bubble's going to burst and like they can't be paying people $700 million?
I would assume so. And just to look it up, right? So Manny Machado became the first $300 million player.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, they were having the conversation of, oh my God, like $300 million for one guy. Like that was it. That was an insane concept to talking heads anywhere in the baseball universe. And within 5 years, we're talking about like, the next big free agent isn't even going to get the biggest contract in the history of baseball. Now, granted, he's a victim of circumstance, right? Like if he was on par with the pitching quality of Shohei Ohtani, he'd be topping Ohtani's deal because he's younger, right? So
Right.
Big picture, but like we're talking about Juan Soto, who could get $46 million a year over 13 years, and it won't even be the biggest contract in baseball. And 5 years ago, we thought the idea of spending $30 million a year on a player was absolute insanity.
And I think
I'm out. Like,
they want you to think it's insanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
No,
that's
but
part of the
think,
concept
but
of
think,
maybe trying to push down the market.
yeah, but I mean, but if you think about it, 5 years ago, $300 million for a player was like unheard of.
I mean, it literally was. It literally was unheard of a couple years ago. And yeah, I mean, the fact that you're talking about two guys fetching 700 and 600, and again, I keep just like making up that 600 number. It's just rumblings, but it's insane. And what scares me a little bit is that this offseason's not an anomaly and that next year the same thing is going to happen. So like these guys like Bellinger and Snell who are taking these deals with 1 year opt-outs, it's like, okay, so you're going to go back onto this same market. You understand it's the same 30 teams, right? Like you're going to go back out there and suddenly fetch your 7 year, 8 year deal. Like, is that going to happen?
So I think the biggest change will be, I mean, in like hindsight, this was a horrible offseason for Scott Boras.
Yeah.
He tried to play tough. He tried to play hard with Bellinger and Matt Chapman and Snell and Montgomery. And we heard about, a potential $150 million contract for Snell from the Yankees. I'm sure he had it like other ones that were higher earlier in the offseason. And Boras said, we'll wait it out. We'll see how it goes. And they're all going to end up, the first three and now Montgomery are going to end up, I guess, settling for 2 deals. And it's just, that's going to be the biggest change. And it could be, when we go back to the idea of collusion or if the owners are trying to team up, is it to, punch Boras back and say, stop with the nonsense. Like, let's get deals done at normal times in the off seasons. And so I think that will be the biggest change we'll see next year. But
yeah, it could very well be aimed directly at him. And I also think there's something interesting to watch that is how many of those Boras guys, Bellinger, Snell, assuming Montgomery also has a 1 year opt out, how many of those same guys go back to Boras? Or how many of them seek different representation?
Yeah, like I said, it was a bad, in all intents and purposes, a bad offseason for him, for how things played. I can't imagine that any of these other Bellinger, Chapman, Snell, and Montgomery are very happy right now. They all more than likely passed up longer term, bigger deals back in December, January, and they were sitting on their hands in February and into March and saying what are we doing? So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. But let's actually transition to the to the Red Sox. We got a little started off topic and kept going, but the 2024 Boston Red Sox start on Thursday. Fans are treated from heading into the season with low expectations, and on top of that, we have to start with 10 p.m. games for the first the first 4 series they're on the West Coast. It's
Too long.
it's not a great start for fans having to stay up, but Joey, what's your overall, I guess, vibe going into the season? Overall expectations, and where do you see them kind of record wise?
I mean, well, I'm told that the vibes are great. I'm told that the vibes are trophy worthy from Alex Cora. So that's something. If the team is going into a season already beaten up, that's bad. I mean, like we're at a place where you have to just look for anything positive. So I don't even think I'm joking when I'm like, I guess that is something, because like you just need something to hang on to. The guys are in good spirits. If nothing else, they are in good spirits. Uh, in terms of expectations for the team, um, I do have them last in the division, which isn't shocking. That's by the books. It's the chalk right now, is that they are set to take the basement yet again. And aside from the Rays, who might actually take a step back this year, but then again, famous last words. That's just like exactly what everyone says right before the Rays go and win the division.
Yeah,
Um, like
so we think
aside
every
from
time.
them, it's every time. But this might actually be the year. But again, who knows? The other three teams are slated to all be very good to great. So I foresee their record not really reflecting the fact that I think they will be an okay team. I think they are going to be better than their record, but I think their record has them hovering right around 500. I have them a little bit below. I have them getting 79 wins.
Yeah, I think that's the over under. Is it 70, 79 and a half, something like
Is it
that?
right there?
I think it's 79 and a half last time I checked.
Yeah, I can look it up real quick. It's either
It was
79 and a
low
half.
80s, and then it kind of trickled down. Uh, I myself, I mean, I'm pretty much in the kind of similar ballpark. I do think there's a chance with Cole going down in New York that rotation could be a disaster. Carlos Rodon
Yeah.
looks absolutely terrible. Cortez, you know,
Met some
I don't
nuts
know.
on him.
Yeah, like you don't know what to expect from him. And the rest of the rotation, like I don't think any of them you're going into the going into the season feeling like terribly comfortable with what they're going to produce. You get, is it Clark Schmidt? They're three.
Think
Is
so.
that correct? Yeah, they're three. He's a solid pitcher. Like they're going to be a good team because their lineup is going to be really good. I mean, you have to go through Judge and Soto, 4 or 5 times a game. That alone is going to be scary as hell for teams. But I mean, for the Red Sox, I don't know. Like I'm putting it in the very low 80s, maybe 80, 81 wins, hovering right around 500. There's a lot of optimism with this team, and we'll go into players specifically in a little bit. But you know, it, I think that things could play out right, where a handful of guys where we're uncertain of where things can be, that they could turn into a team that, like, not that they're going to be a 90-win team or anything like that, but they could be a mid to higher 80-win team if these things hit. And not every single one, but like, a handful of these wild card players that we aren't sure of yet, of what to expect. If a couple of them actually play up to what they can play, we could be pleasantly surprised.
The thing is with this team in particular is I'll take them against any pitching staff. I think the lineup is good. I would say it's a good lineup. I think you could very well have another top 10 offense in baseball kind of year. Again, there's a couple of
People
ifs there.
forget that they were the sixth
Absolutely.
best team, sixth best offense in baseball. I think it was through like mid-August, and I think they dropped down to like eighth or ninth by the end of the year because the wagon
September
fell
didn't
off.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
September was awful.
for 80% of the season, they were a top 8, offense in baseball. And so while they lost Turner and Duvall, and they've replaced them with, O'Neill, or they lost Verdugo and O'Neill, so they replaced him with O'Neill and Grissom and stuff like that.
Mm.
And obviously we're going to get a healthy Story, and that will be one of the bigger wild cards in this team. But I think the lineup can be better, especially if you consider, what kind of jump we expect from Tristan Casas this year. Can he,
Mm.
I don't think we necessarily expect a full year of what he put in the second half of last year, because I mean that was a dominating final couple months of the year. But if he takes that a little bit next step, if we see Yoshida get a little bit more comfortable, take a little bit next step at bats, the offense can be pretty impressive. But Ben, where are you at with record wise and what you think? I know you're you're more
So
gloomy.
I'm not as optimistic. I will share the sentiment that I think the offense can be very good. I mean, despite the fact that September didn't matter last year, they still finished 11th in runs scored. So I think the offense is for sure, if they can perform all year, and if they stay healthy, they can be a legit, they'll be solidly in the top 10, maybe a fringe top 5 offense. I have the numbers. I can bring it up again real quick. My worry is there's too many question marks with the pitching staff. I was harsh in my criticism previously. I'm on record saying that it wouldn't shock me if they lost 100 games this year. I don't think they're going to be that bad. I think the offense is definitely better than I was probably willing to admit or give them credit for. I mean, the bullpen's still going to be good. I just don't know what the pitching staff is such a wild card, because if they don't perform, I think you could see a, low to mid 70s at best winning team, because their offense just can't outslug everybody on a night in night out basis. If Bayo can make a step forward, I thought, hopefully going into this year, if they had signed an arm or two, that they wouldn't have to thrust him into a high leverage rotation spot. I think he has the ceiling to get there. I just don't think he's there yet. So can he perform like an ace? I mean, my gut says no, only because I think he's a year and a half away from really being that guy that they can rely on, just because he's still young, doesn't quite have the experience. I mean, they're probably for me, like I'm thinking more like 72, 73 wins. I just looked at Vegas Insider has their over under at 77.5. So, depending on where you look, they're kind of roughly where they were last year. What was last year? 76.5, Matt, was the over under last year. So, if their starting rotation can give them more than expectations, I think they could be a 500 ball club for sure. For me, it really boils down to, is the rotation going to perform? I love, like, Garrett Whitlock's upside to me is great. It's just he hasn't shown the ability to be a consistent starter for an entire season. I get that they have a need for it. I think he's better suited for the bullpen, but the pitching staff scares me a little bit, just based on who they're going to have to rely on in high leverage situations. And I just, for me, like, kind of low to mid 70s wins is kind of where I'm at.
I mean, it got worse. Their pitching staff got worse. It wasn't good, and it got worse.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, last year was basically the same staff that we had last year. I mean, we had Kluber, I guess, for the start of last year, but that was an absolute disaster. Chris Sale, I don't even want to include him much from last year because of just the inconsistencies of what to expect. It really comes down to, and that's what we'll transition into, is just like, what do we expect from this rotation? And the answer is, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I have confidence in Bello to develop a little bit more. I have a cautious optimism that Nick Pivetta can be, not necessarily what he was in the second half of last year, but a pretty solid starter. I have some belief in Cutter Crawford, that he can be, a legit, consistent starting pitcher, whether that's as a 3, 4, 5, we'll see. After that, though, I mean, I've been on record numerous times that I felt Whitlock and Houck were both bullpen pieces, and that's where they can maximize their abilities. And I felt, okay, maybe if one of them is in the rotation, we might be in decent shape. Now, opening day is 2 days away, and they're both sitting there in the 4 or 5 spot of the rotation. It's not pretty, to say the least.
No, I think it's a nightmare situation to have them both in.
Yeah, and if
Giolito
doesn't get hurt, now granted, this is, the glass half full side of things. If Giolito doesn't get hurt, Houck's not in the rotation. So, you're I don't want to call it a fluky injury because it's not really a fluke, it's an elbow, but Giolito's never really been hurt in his career to this extent. I'm sure he's missed a couple of starts here and there, blister.
I think he had elbow surgery early into his career, but yeah, I mean,
but years ago, right?
Yeah, the last 5 to 7 years, he's been a train for teams, just consistently pumping out high 20, low 30 starts every year.
Yeah, so if he doesn't need Tommy John, well, no, I shouldn't say Tommy John because he's having the brace surgery. He's not having full Tommy John. But if he doesn't need elbow surgery, then we're not talking about Houck in the rotation, and possibly, is he being traded? Because is there really even a spot in the bullpen for him? I mean, who knows how that would have shaken out. But yeah, I mean, just what I said before, I don't really know what to expect. I mean, I think you'll get decent stuff out of Bayo and Pivetta. Something I heard yesterday or today that kind of the goal is to get the starters through 5 innings and then hand it over to the bullpen. I think that eventually that might catch up to them. If you're expecting your bullpen to eat 4 innings, if that's your hope, and God forbid somebody blows up and you got to go 5, 6, 7 innings with your bullpen, but trying to go 4 innings with your bullpen,
which is bound to happen.
Right.
Once at least once in the rotation. They don't have anybody that I genuinely feel like there's a decent chance every game for them to go 7 or 8 innings. Even the upside of Bello, it's all right, could he give us 6 good innings? Maybe he gets into the 7th. Pivetta, I mean, he's a consistent, durable guy, but what are you going to get from him after that? Crawford, Whitlock, Houck. If you get 5 good innings, you feel like that's a win, and that's in big picture not good for how you're feeling about the team.
That, man, hearing you say getting 5 innings out of them is great. Just gave me such flashbacks to last year. Oh my God. That was just the mantra for so long, was okay, 5 innings, 5 innings, 5 innings. Can we just get 5 out of this guy? Oh my God. Yeah. I'm remembering just how stressful it was. And you're in for a full year of it. We're in for an entire full year of it. I will say, I think if anybody is going to do it, it would be Pivetta, to take a step to a place where he could go 7, 8 innings. It's Pivetta. I think that he would throw till his arm falls off. I don't think it's good for him. I think if you told him every start, you're pitching the complete game, he would do it.
He'd jump off the bench. He'd be so amped. Be like, I'll throw 800 pitches. I don't care.
He could throw a perfect game. He'd be pissed off. He's a different kind of psycho, man. He's crazy. He's
that's the guy
the perfect replacement for Chris Sale as the psycho in the rotation.
Yeah, except for Pavetta's not going to cut up jerseys because he doesn't like the look of them.
Yeah, he's also probably not going to, rack up a couple hundred strikeouts, but
that's true. Although
he won't fall off his bike.
No, he will not. Take it for what it's worth. According to my fantasy league that I drafted last night, he is projected to top 200 strikeouts this year. Don't know if he'll get there, but I'll throw that out there. The other thing, I looked up so we talk about what to expect out of the rotation. So Brian Bayo's game log from 2023, he made, doesn't say how many on this page. It doesn't say how many starts he made, but he on 8 separate occasions went not, I didn't count. I just looked at how many times it was at least 6 1/3 innings. I didn't go into did he pitch into the 6th and just not get an out? But on 8 separate occasions, he got at minimum 1 out or more into the 7th inning in a start.
It's a little better than I probably thought off the top of my head, but
yeah, and I mean
28 starts last year.
So 28, that's what? A little bit less than a third?
No. A little bit more than a third.
A little bit more than a third, sorry. And then, so in addition to that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 other times he got 6 innings. So
Yeah, I mean, he battled, like, and I expect him to take a little bit of a step forward, and he got his extension, and I'm happy for that. I'm happy to keep him here around. I'm not as 100% convinced where, I mean, I guess this is a question for you guys. Like, where do you really see Bellows Bello being, 2 or 3 years from now? Do you see him as that ace kind of guy? Do you see him as like a 2-3? Like, personally, I think he's destined to be like a peak 2.
yeah, I would say his ceiling is a legit 2. I don't think he
Wait,
has like he doesn't have like elite swing and miss stuff. And granted, he's 25 in what, 2 months ish, turns 25 in May sometime. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he can't ever become that guy, but like based on projectability, he's a legit 2 at his peak. I mean, if he takes a legit jump and he can add in some more swing and miss stuff. I know when Breslow was hired, with his emphasis on pitching, they were going to work with him to try to figure out how he can generate more swing and miss type stuff. Not necessarily the development of more pitches, but just to kind of look at the data and the analytics and say, you can generate more swing and miss if we do X, not try to reinvent the wheel.
yeah, make an adjustment to change-ups and his fastball, and
Yeah,
working on different approaches.
Yeah, so maybe, but yeah, I would say like a solid 2 based on current projectability.
Where do you see it, Joey?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and for basically the same reasons. Because those top guys that you see, just across the league, it's swing and miss stuff, it's strikeout rates, it's being untouchable, and that's just not who Bayo is. And I don't think it's a matter of growing and evolving, because I think that would just be reworking who he is entirely. And obviously, his changeup gets some beautiful whiffs, but the rates aren't there. I think he would have to rework his entire approach to be considered in like the same
A legit ace.
ace status as some of those other guys across the game.
Yeah, so at least I know I'm not a little bit crazy with with that projection. But let's transition MVP of this season. Whether I guess we'll put the actual label of the MVP, most valuable player to the team, best player to the team, however you want to approach it. Who are you guys taking for your MVP Red Sox predictions for this year?
I'm going Tristan Casas. I think Casas and Devers battle for a bit for, the highest OPS on the team, homer lead, all that. I think Casas outdoes him this year. And a lot
I'm in
of
the
that,
exact same boat.
I think it's so possible. I think a lot of it is the gut test. Close your eyes. Can you picture it? Like, can you see Tristan Casas having a 37 homer year? Yeah. Like, I just can, and I don't know if it's picking right up where he left off. I think that the team might just take a while to get going, period. But I think all things considered, for like what you need and where you need it, having Tristan go off, even if him and Devers numbers are neck and neck, I still think that you would give this hypothetical MVP award to the guy that isn't the $300 million guy, that isn't this established guy, that's been here for 1 year and already feels like a big leaguer, feels like part of this team, feels like he belongs. Yeah, I just see Tristan having a huge year. He's so in his own zone too. I think that like they could just field the rest of the team with mannequins and like guarantee that they're going to lose 162, and he would still go out there and give 100%. I was rewatching the clip the other day of him screaming after that walk. That is awesome. That's why I watch baseball.
He's a unique
He's
dude.
so fun.
Like he's got this like very unique personality. He seems very comfortable with who he is, which can be a very important feature in a player, of not having that, not panic and nerves and stuff. He's very comfortable with who he is, and I think it's helping his approach. That's my pick. I kind of, and Ben knows, we do a state your take moment every episode, usually at the end. And I guess I'll throw mine out right here now. Like, I think by the end of this season, we kind of see like this is, and not that he's really the vocal leader, but like this is kind of Devers' team in a sense because he's the top player, the highest paid player. I think like 12 months from now, or 8 months from now, at the end of the season, we're gonna look at this team and be like, all right, like this is Costas's team now. Like
Wow.
he's the lead guy, and not to necessarily say he's gonna be like clear cut the better player than Devers, but combine the fact that I think he'll take that next step and have an outstanding year, and then put the fact that he's more that face of the guy. He's more personable. He can speak English. Like, so when you talk about marketing a player in America and being that vocal leader, that Devers isn't really that doesn't seem like that type of guy. I think it'll be like, this is kind of Costas' team, at least until we see these prospects coming up. But
In
Ben, how
terms
about
of
you?
face of the team, absolutely. Sorry, just face of the
Yeah,
team kind of stuff. That's especially once the Netflix doc comes out.
yeah,
That'll set it over
exactly.
the edge.
Ben, where are you at with this?
I mean, the easy answer I think is Devers. I think it can be Casas if he takes a legitimate next step. I think he's I think he's a legit 30 homer guy this year if he can stay healthy. I guess I'll give the political answer. I think that if the offensive numbers are comparable, I think you have to give it to Casas because Devers' defense is such a drastically lesser quality of a product than you get at a Casas. Now, granted, they play different positions, but I just think that if you're going to look at comparable offensive numbers, you probably see Casas as having a better defensive year. I'll lean Devers because I still think Casas is a year away from being a bona fide bat in the lineup. And I'm not saying he can't be that this year, but if he does it again after the second half he had last year, I think you're talking about him, given his personality, he's got a little bit of an edge to him, which I think is missing across baseball. Like that's a different story for another day. You don't see that kind of player anymore, in my opinion. But if he can have that edge, that swagger, and be a guy that's like, yeah, like I'm gonna hit 255, 260, and you can put me down for 30 to 35 homers a year. Maybe next year. I still think it's Devers because I think that, when you're making the kind of money he makes, he's penciled in a premium spot in the lineup. Again, not that Casas isn't. I just, I'll lean Devers for another year, but I think 2025, especially where that's the hope is that Marcelo Mayer and Roman Anthony and Kyle Teel, like that's their year to kind of burst onto the scene. I think that's kind of when he takes over because he's, again, more of a vocal guy. I think he's going to bring those younger guys along with him, and that's going to be your core, for the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully. So I'll lean Devers, but it would not shock me if it's Casas by the end of the season.
Yeah. All right, most improved. Whether that's as a player in development or just from last year, it's up to you how you want to approach it. But where are you going with most improved player for the Red Sox this year?
Do you have one ready, Benny?
Yeah, so I'll
go for it.
I'll kind of go most improved / comeback, and I feel like it screams Trevor Story. I personally try not to hang my hat too much on what happens in spring training because both from a pitching and an offensive standpoint, too many guys are tinkering with too many things, trying to figure out, whether it's a pitcher developing a new pitch or kind of reinventing or adding in usages and figuring out best spots for that. Hitters making adjustments in their swings, whether it's mechanical, two strike approach, runners in scoring position, whatever it may be. But Trevor Story he looks really good. So if he can stay healthy, and there's nothing to say that he can't, I know elbow issues, especially for shortstops, pitching aside, right? But shortstops, you think elbow, like, okay, like who really knows? Nothing has really shown me that he's, if he looks at a setback, I think it's going to be kind of fluky. So for me, I think, with Trevor Story, he's got a lot to prove too. He's had 2 injury-riddled seasons since he signed his deal here. And he's going back to shortstop where he spent the vast majority of his career. And I think it's prime for a most improved comeback type of year for him, where I think he's a legit 2020 guy who it will challenge to be a Gold Glove caliber shortstop.
Fair. How about you, Joey?
First of all, I would love to see that. I want a Trevor bounce back year so bad. I mean, the team needs it too. If they're going to have a solid offense, they need Trevor to be Trevor.
I want him more than I want to breathe.
Need him.
It could
Need
be
him.
like the Bloom supporter in me, but like I'm so invested in the idea of him like proving his worth
Yeah.
and showing that like it wasn't. There's a reason why they signed him and they were interested in him. So oh boy, I will be the biggest Trevor Story stan if he can make a comeback this year.
And I think there's a good case for it. But the guy I'm going with is Cutter Crawford. I think part of it is most improved. I also think it's getting recognition, because I think that he did have stretches last year, or at least individual outings, in which he showed what he's capable of. And I think this is going to be the year where he starts in the rotation, more than likely stays there the whole year. It's a great opportunity for him to show that he belongs in a major league rotation. I also think that he's a guy who, when he gets rolling, he doesn't stop. He's a guy that you can pretty early on in a start tell if he's got it or if he doesn't. Gets out of jams. I would love to see him really take off this year and be the surprise in the rotation, because there are so many unknowns that there's no way all of the question marks work out. There's not even really a chance that most of the question marks work out. But, if Bayo is Bayo and Pivetta is Pivetta and Crawford shows you what he's capable of, I think that it's not necessarily the saving grace of the rotation, but it would at least give some life to it. To have 60% of the rotation be legit would be huge for this team. And I also just feel it. We're going with gut again. I feel a big Cutter Crawford year.
Yeah, I like the idea of. I think he can take that next step to be a consistent starter in this league. And by starter, I don't mean like a guy that shouldn't be a starter, but just eats innings. I think he could be that guy that gives you a consistent every fifth day battles. The perfect number 5 in a rotation. No, he's not going to be the number 5, but like the perfect number 5 guy that will battle and be relatively consistent. And even if that's not like a mid 3 ERA guy, I could see him going out there and giving you 170 innings and a low 4 ERA, and we're going to look back and say, for what we expect from him, that exceeded expectations, and we'll take that because that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I like the recognition piece that you touched on. Cutter Crawford to me is like, he's kind of boring, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like Cutter Crawford, like you look at Cutter Crawford and it's like nothing really wows you about what he does. He goes out and he throws. He doesn't throw incredibly hard. He tops out at 95. He doesn't really sit 95. He's like 93, 94. He'll touch 95. He's not this, he doesn't stomp off the mound, crazy emotional guy. He just goes out and he throws.
He doesn't get the big personality, or the big flamethrower, big body type guy.
Yeah. So, if he can do that quietly, especially given the atmosphere that the Red Sox find themselves in this year, I think he'll get the recognition that, really he probably doesn't get. Like last year, like Matt, you brought up the stats. So last year in 129 and a third innings, he had a 4.04 ERA.
Even better than I thought. I thought he was in like the 4.2s, 4.3s.
And he brought it down. So his first start in September gave up 5 earned over 3 2/3, and his ERA was at a 4.36. His final 4 starts, he brought it down and finished with a 4.04, which, like you said, he's a perfect number 5 guy. Again, like he's not going to get anybody excited. He's just going to go out there and do his job, and I think that doing that in the number 3 spot, which obviously there's a lot more eyes when you're the number 3 starter versus the number 5 guy. And, even on, whether you're at the game or on TV, you're like, all right, like hopefully this guy can just give us 5 innings and you're not expecting too much. I still don't think you're going to have high expectations, but if you can get, a 500 record, and wins and losses to me are such an overrated stat for pitching. But if you can have a 500 record, it means that, with a low 4 ERA, it means that every time he's going out, he's giving the offense a chance for the Red Sox to be competitive in a baseball game.
Yeah. I mean, I think he could show that maybe by the end of the year, you do view him as maybe a 3 or 4 instead. And obviously, if our 1 and 2 were like legit bona fide 1 and 2s, it would be a little different if Crawford was our 3. But, that's obviously big picture. But for me, and I can't believe I'm falling back into this, I think it's more because you guys took 2 guys that I was thinking of. But I'm just going to convince myself, even though I hate myself for doing it, and I'm going to say Garrett Whitlock. I'm giving him one last shot to I'm going to hate myself for doing this. But one last shot in the rotation to show what I think Bloom and what Bloom and Cora have been seeing the last few years of like what he could be. Let's just go out and say that he finally shows what he could be, and I think that is a guy that I won't go into whether he's going to hit 200 innings or not or something like that, but a guy that can go out there, give you 5 or 6 innings, and I think it could be like a high 3 ERA guy and a guy that is a pretty solid starter. And whether I prefer him in the bullpen or not, that's a whole other story. But that's I'll leave it at that. I won't dive too deep into it. But let's kind of go back down the opposite way. Who's a guy that you see in this team that maybe whether he's getting a little too much hype or not, that you just really aren't very high on and don't have high expectations and think that they'll ultimately by the end of the year kind of disappoint fans of what they're expecting right now?
Tyler O'Neill. Can I say that? Is that bad? I don't. Here's the thing. I understand. I've seen the numbers. I've seen his numbers. I've seen what he's capable of if he has a full season. And it was, only a few years ago in 2009 that he had a full season. So it should be totally fine.
2009.
It's it's actually like 2021. But I'm saying like it's always like, well, if you look at his first, his last full season, it's like, how far back do I have to go? Like, what state was I living in when he had a full season? And to start spring with 2 calf issues already, like he didn't travel to DR and then he was scratched a couple days later. It's like, my expectations are low. I'll put it that way. I don't necessarily think he's gonna suck, but to have any expectations above, playing 50 games or something feels like I'm setting myself up for failure. And obviously 50 is a little ridiculous, but my expectations for him are when he's healthy, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Ben, how about you?
So I feel like I'm kind of going really awry with this. It's not a hyped player, but something that was said in the offseason kind of tipped me off. And I'm going to go with Kenley Jansen. And here's why. And I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know the exact statement, but he essentially said that the attitude and the direction of the organization when he signed here prior to the 2023 season, he says is not the same thing that it is now. I get, he's not young, he's not old either. What is he, 32?
No, you think he's in his mid 30s, 36 maybe?
Yeah, he's around there.
Oh, really? But in any case, so he's in a contract here, which typically speaking, means guys perform well because they're looking for that contract. So yeah, 36. It'll be 37 in September. My mistake. But I feel like he's kind of that statement makes me feel like he's almost kind of checked out, where he knows the direction of the organization does not include him. He was rumored to possibly be traded because the Red Sox were looking to shed salary. You think he's due $16 million this year. So they're looking to shed salary. He's been in the trade talk rumor mill. I don't think he's going to at this point. I don't know why they would at this point. And I think that, if he feels that the organization doesn't consider him a priority, maybe he's a little bit more checked out mentally than he normally would be. And granted, he's 36, so he's probably playing for the final contract he may ever get, if he gets another one. But I just think that, he seems checked out mentally, and I think that while he may not blow up, I don't think you're going to see, again, he's 36, I get that, but I just don't think you're going to see a typical Kenley year, especially when they have other options in the bullpen where if he struggles, maybe you see a switch because they know he's not part of the long-term future.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good one. I don't really know what to expect from him. I think you kind of like go into it with the expectation of a base expectation that like he'll be Kenley Jansen, but he's getting older, and we know that he was probably almost traded. I had heard, through the grapevine that the Dodgers had called and that they were, highly considering trading him. And maybe if Giolito didn't get hurt and Houck was in the bullpen, maybe that they would have ended up pulling that trigger over the last couple of weeks. But I mean, we'll see what we get for him. For me, I lean, and I just kind of mentioned his name, is I lean Tanner Houck. I think he's a bullpen guy. I pray that Andrew Bailey can get him through that funk, that he is, can't get through that fourth, fifth, sixth inning and work through the lineup the third time. But I don't see it. I think his best spot is being that 1 or 2 inning guy and maximizing himself in those 1 or 2 innings. And I've been very vocal that I would have loved if they traded Kenley and made Houck the closer. So him being the number 5 guy, I'm not really loving it right now. But we'll wrap up one more with this kind of segment is biggest wild card out of whether it's to team success, team failure. Who's the one guy that brings the most control? Whether if he has a bad year, will really hurt the team, or if he has a really good year, can really boost this team into another level.
I think it's Jarren Duran.
Okay.
I mean, you've seen what bad Jarren looks like, and I don't think he's going back to that. I really do believe that he's found it, that he's capable of being the most fun player to watch on this team.
Blonde-haired Jarren Duran is a thing of beauty.
Is it something? I love it. I love that he's speaking up more. I love that he was like, I got an area of my game I'd really like to work on. It's my speed, and decided to go and get
He's like,
training.
I'm not fast enough.
Yeah, he went and worked with track coaches and people who analyzed his running form. Was like, yeah, I got to get faster.
He runs like a fucking a speed waddler.
Yeah, I saw him in the dugout last year. I think it was opening day of 23. And I was like, man, I saw you earlier. Like, are you faster than last year? And without any kind of humor or sarcasm behind it, he went, yes. He's like, yes, no, I am. I am faster. I will be faster too. So the fact that he just takes the areas of his game that he's awesome at and keeps getting better, I do expect a big year from him. And him taking another step forward and just continuing to stretch every single into a double, and just being so dynamic, being able to play, all positions in the outfield. I think that if he does that, and if he takes that next step, he could be a huge, huge impact player for this team.
Fair enough. Ben, where are you at with this one?
just to piggyback off what Joey said about Duran, I think that if he can be penciled in as your left fielder, there's going to be less of a demand on him defensively that I think just makes the potential of an offensive jump even higher. I'm going to stick in the outfield. I'm going to kind of go with this weirdly. So I think a guy who I think if the upside is real and happens now, you see a dramatic boost is Sede and Rafaela. He doesn't have a ton of power upside, but I think that for a guy his size, if you can get 15 to 20 home runs, if he can be your everyday center fielder, I mean, you saw him flying yesterday. I mean, a line drive, if that ball gets by him yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw the clip, but if the ball gets by him yesterday, the guy probably doesn't stop running until he's crossing home plate in the dugout. Like that was ballsy play out in center, and you need that. So I think if the upside is real and it happens now, I think he's a legitimate AL Rookie of the Year candidate, and I think would help take this to the next level.
I took him at 2 different sports books for AL Rookie of the Year a few weeks ago.
Probably plus 3,000 type odds on that one.
I think higher. I got him at like, I want to say plus 10,000.
Wow.
At one point, he's significantly higher now.
And then I think if there's one guy who doesn't live up to the hype that would cripple the team, it's Casas. Devers can't do it on his own. I don't think Devers, unless he gets hurt, I don't think you'll see a true regression. But if Casas doesn't build on last year, I think the offense kind of starts to crumble a little bit. He's the only other like legitimate elite upside type power bat you have in this lineup. Sure, and I know Joey touched on it. O'Neill could be that guy, but the expectations there have to be almost non-existent based on his history. Yeah. So I think, to use two guys, and I know it's kind of a weird way. I think if Rafaela's upside is there, great. But I think if Casas doesn't have a very good year where he's on the heels statistically of a Devers, I think the offense is in trouble if Casas is not, the 1B to Devers is 1A.
Yeah. I think I battled this question to myself when I was putting everything together. I feel like pitching Pivetta and Whitlock, I think kind of specifically Pivetta is really important. If you're going to get like 2021 Pivetta, that rotation is going to be very, very, very much in trouble. If you get last year's Pivetta, it will be a big boost to this team. But I still lean kind of Trevor Story. They didn't replace Justin Turner from last year. He is now seen as that right-handed bat that looks to be the 3-hitter. If he can get back to what he was as a player in Colorado, and you don't even have to say peak Trevor Story in Colorado, but the average of what he was for 4 or 5 years there, combine that with his defense, like that is a very, very good baseball player. And I made the prediction in my article the other day is I think he can be a 25-25 guy. I think he can hit 25 home runs, whether that's batting 240 or 260s or 270s, we'll see. But I think he can hit 25 home runs and he can steal 25 bags and play gold glove defense. And if he doesn't, whether it's via injury or he was what he was when he came back last year, I mean, I think that alone can be a difference of like 5 to 7 wins this year. That bat in the number 3 spot, because if he doesn't hit, unless O'Neill like shows the hell up, they're not going to have a right-handed bat in that lineup that you feel overly confident about. There's a ton of pressure on him as a right-handed hitter, and so I think that's probably the biggest wild card for me is just if he shows up or whether he doesn't, it's going to be a huge hindrance on, especially if he got injured, but huge hindrance on what this team is or whether they're a low 70 team or a low 80 team. Thoughts there?
I was going to say, where do you think he hits?
I think it looks like he's going to be the 3-hitter.
Okay.
I mean, that's where he's been in, the majority of his spring training games. I think they're going to line up, go Duran, Devers, Story, Casas. Maybe they mix in, versus lefties. They move Duran out of the one spot and they put in whether it's Rafael or maybe a Vaughn Grissom when he's back, something like that. But the number 3 spot seems to be the main spot for him, and maybe there's a scenario in which O'Neill is hitting very well, and maybe Story is a little slumping, and they can switch that. But Story seems to be their 3-hitter this year, so whether that's going to be very good or very bad is wait to see. I'm optimistic, and I want nothing more for him than to kind of hit that. But we'll transition to our final segment, and that is we're going to do a little bit of a this or that kind of Red Sox edition. I'll pull 2 options, what you guys think is more likely, and give your explanation. And the first one will be the Boston Red Sox. Are they more likely to win 72 or less games, or 84 or more wins?
72. Under 72, I think. There's just so many paper and tape aspects of the team that, could fall apart. 2 injuries in your rotation, and I don't know what this team looks like.
Cooper Criswell, baby.
Cooper Criswell is what the team looks like. So, your 2025 opening day starter. That could there's more opportunity for the wheels to fall off than there are for 6 pitchers to have incredible years, which is like what you would need.
We're saying 84 wins, and I think I agree with you. Like 84 wins.
It's in this division though. Likely. Like I think it's a tough division. Like if everybody was the Rays in this division, you can, but like that's the thing is like this offense, I feel good about going up against any pitcher, but like you can't bring out bad pitching against good lineups, and that's what they're going to do all year. So I have a hard time seeing them excel and come close to 90 wins in this division. I just don't think there's room for it.
Fair. Ben, how about you?
I would agree. I think it's more likely that they end up in the 72 or less category. And I don't even know if it's one injury to the rotation that really starts to cause some people to wave the white flag. Even one. Obviously it's easier to stomach if it's Whitlock can't do it, Houck, whatever. But like God forbid Bayo goes down for an extended period of time, you're in rough shape. Really rough shape. I think, and especially early on, I don't want to say they play a murderer's row early on. I know they open up at Seattle, but then they go to Oakland and then they go to the Angels. So, not the worst way to start off your year, but, typically right. Hitting kind of wins. I feel like, pitching kind of wins out in the beginning. Guys are still trying to get warmed up. Certain guys kind of get hot, but, like Joey said, you kind of hit the nail on the head. The division, I think it's just too much of an uphill battle. Even if the Rays regress a little bit, don't know if they really will. Again, famous last words. But you're staring up at a pretty significant clip to the other 4 teams in your own division. I think, there's other good young teams that I think are noticeably better. I won't say significantly. I don't think a team like Seattle is significantly better than the Red Sox, but in a multi-game series, like Seattle probably takes the edge there. So, I think 72 is more likely, but I don't think 84 is impossible either.
It's fair. It's fair. All right, next up, who will throw more innings pitched this year, Garrett Whitlock or Tanner Houck?
Option 3, Joey Copponi. I'll say Houck. He's a little bit more stretched out, generally speaking, because he's been primarily a starter where Whitlock really hasn't been. I think the ceiling is higher with Whitlock, but I would say safe bet innings wise, it's probably Houck.
All right. How about you, Joey?
I don't care. I don't care.
Option four.
Yeah. If option 3 is me, option 4 is I don't care. They won't be consequential games. Neither one of them has proven themselves to be a starter. It doesn't really matter. They're both going to give it their all, and that means a lot to me.
As long as they try.
Here's me really scraping. If I can get
effort.
right to the bottom of that barrel, I'm going to take off some of the plastic because it's a plastic barrel. I guess most barrels are wood. I'm going to take off some wood with how hard I'm scraping the bottom here. I liked the look of Whitlock's slider recently. So there's something. That's what I got to contribute.
His changeup against the Rangers of the night actually looked pretty nasty.
There we go. He's always got that nice changeup. Now he's got a cool slider, and those pitches go opposite ways. So that's a lot of movement.
And you know what, Joey? What we can add to it? He changed his jersey number this year. He wears a real number now.
What is he rocking?
I think he's 32, not 72.
It's a good number.
It's a good number. Derek Lowe.
Breaking news: Garrett Whitlock, his slider moves now.
His slider. I didn't know he's wearing 32 now. I might just go with Whitlock. He's wearing 32. Let's go with that.
That was the deciding factor.
Yeah, there we go. That changes things.
Well, I was like, hey, that looks like Garrett Whitlock, but doesn't Whitlock have number 72? And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, hey, changed his jersey number.
All right, next up. And I guess injury is probably the biggest factor in this one. Is more likely to hit 20 dingers, Masataka Yoshida or Tyler O'Neill? Now,
the guy
Yoshida
who's going to play. Yeah, let's go Yoshi because Masa. People get so mad. I'm going to go off on a tangent. I'm sorry, I got to stop. People get so mad when I say Yoshi. I get he doesn't go by Yoshi. Yeah, it's a fine nickname. Damn it.
That was the nickname everyone gave him like to the start. It wasn't until he said like he wants to be called Masa.
It wasn't until Jared Carabas said he heard that Yoshi doesn't like that nickname, and then everybody was like, "Amen." He never said that. Jared just like I heard it, and they're like, "That's praise be to God, the word of the Lord." Can we? I don't know.
Lord Carabas.
Think of all of the merchandising that we are missing out on, not calling this dude Yoshi. Whatever. I think it's Yoshi. I think he hits 20 dingers.
We're gonna put his face on a green dinosaur and slap Mario on his back on a T-shirt.
It's so easy. It's right there. But now everybody thinks it's like offensive to call him that, which is like not the case at all. It's Yoshinobu Yamamoto goes by Yoshi. It's not like some like. I remember people at the beginning were like, hey, it's like culturally insensitive to call him that. I'm like, is that the case? And then looked it up, and there's a guy who works for the Red Sox who goes by Yoshi. I don't know what he does. I don't know if he's a translator or whatever. There's a Japanese fellow who goes by Yoshi on the Sox already. So that it's certainly not that. I don't know. I'm going off tangent here. I like Masataka Yoshida a lot. I want him on the Masa. I don't know if you saw those that like they made like NASA t-shirts that say Masa.
I did not see that.
Those are really good. I want some green dinosaurs. I want to be able to wear some of that. A 20 homer season, and I'm full-time calling him Yoshi.
All right. Hey, we heard it here first.
Yeah. We'll have to save that. We'll save that audio clip. We'll play it next year when we have you on prior to the 2025 season.
There we go. Yeah, save that.
Ben, how about you?
So, I mean, you have to go with Masa just because I think the history of Tyler O'Neill would indicate that, he may not even hit 10 home runs because he may not play enough games to get there. I mean, I think the obvious answer, assuming health, is O'Neill because he has a lot more power upside. But I'm going to go with the guy that's actually going to play a significant number of games, especially because I think where Masa is going to, and we'll speak into existence. We'll start calling him Yoshi now, especially where if Yoshi's going to be a primary Yoshi's going to be a primary DH. There's going to be less pressure to focus on a pretty subpar defense that he plays out there. And if he can focus exclusively on hitting, I don't know, 25 home runs ceiling for him.
All right. I like it. I like it. We'll finish up with one more. All right. So let's see. Who will have which will be higher? Rafael Devers' home runs or
Um,
Jaron Duran's stolen bases?
oh, this is easy.
Ooh.
So Duran stole 24 last year in 102 games. So you put that over, let's just say 140, 150 game pace. And he's probably in the low 30s, maybe mid 30s. Hey, he says he's getting faster.
Are you
That's
faster?
what that's
Unequivocally,
what he's
yes.
going for. So, what are you doing? Which is going to be higher for you, Ben?
Devers for me. I think Duran's ceiling is about 30, 32. And I think, again, assuming health, I think Devers is a lock for another 35, 38 homer type season. Maybe not easy. Easy was kind of a poor choice of words there. But I would say
What did he hit last year?
Devers, let's see.
34.
I can pull it up. Yeah, he hit 33. So, he's hit 38 once. He's hit 33, 32, 27 in 2022. So, I think the over under for him is probably around 32, 33. And if Durant has a healthy season, which again that's a huge if. Yeah, I mean, I kind of would lean. I'll lean Devers, but I think Durant has a real shot to take that if he can stay healthy. And as Joey said, he's trying to get faster. That was his main goal this
Yes.
offseason. I love,
That'd be
I
like-
love him lifting weights, but like I would love for him to also like work on some pliability and get a little more flexible and try to stay healthy for us this year.
Maybe you can call
But-
Alex Guerrero.
Yeah, Joey, how about you? Which one are you going with?
I mean, you gotta hope it's Devers. I mean, the fact that
Take
Devers
home
hasn't
runs.
had a 40, yeah. I mean, the fact that Devers hasn't had a 40 homer season is crazy. And I did take Casas to outdo Devers at the plate this year, but you gotta hope it's Devers. He's due for one of those big years, and also the outfield is so crowded. We just don't know what Jaron Duran's playing time is going to be like. It might be similar to that 100 games again. So I think
I should have made it Casas or Duran. That might have been a better one.
I think I would still go Casas.
I think I would still lean Casas because I think he's going to be in. Actually,
I don't know. Like Casas to me is like
I put the over under at home runs at 30.5 online yesterday, and it was a very mixed bag. So I have him at 31. That was my stat prediction. So I think like Duran, that would be.
I have him at 57 this year, just in Casas.
is he turning around? Is he turning around and playing right-handed, and he's just going to hit everything onto the Mass Pike?
I think he's going to, and I think the Maris family comes out to watch him break 60 just because. I think they're going to make a whole thing of it and give themselves some more headlines. I think Aaron Judge is going to be sweating it a little bit in his pressers. He might snap once. He might pound the table.
Damn, we bet
I don't care about
win more than 84 games. I mean, more than 72 games if Casas is hitting 60 dingers.
I would hope so.
I think we're going to lose every game 12-10. I think that's what's going to happen.
And Casas is going to have a home run every other game, basically.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I like it. Yeah, I think I would lean. I think I would go Duran if it was Casas versus Duran because I think Casas is going to end up right in that low 30s. And Duran, if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be that like guy that can steal 35-ish bags for you. So, all right, yeah, I think that'll wrap us up. I wanted to kind of get into some Patriots, but we as usual go way longer than I ever anticipate, and I need to just start anticipating going longer.
Let's see.
Yeah, Joey, thank you for coming on. As
absolutely.
most people here know, he is the co-host now, main host of Inside the Monster. What are you guys with? CLNS now?
We are with CLNS now. Yeah, we just dropped our first episode today, actually, with my good friend David Ortiz. So yeah, check that out wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, that must have been a fun interview with David
It was
Ortiz.
crazy. I was nervous. I had very little time to prepare for it. It was like about 12 hours notice that David asked to come on the show, which was
Wow.
It was very weird. It was
Did you have to pinch yourself and be like, "Is this really happening?"
I was in a dreamscape the whole
Ortiz?
time. I was like, "Are you sure you're really here? This is really a Zoom call with David Ortiz."
Is Bam Margera gonna pop out and say that I've been punked?
Yeah. It was in the back of my mind the whole time.
It was like, "Hey, this is Poppy. Interview 12 hours."
Yeah. Trust me. I'm not going to share my personal texts, but trust me, he texted me that. He said, "This is my favorite podcast. Can I please come on?" But yeah, no, I mean, it was fun. It was a short sit down with him, but we also just, we addressed all the changes that we had recently with the show, with, obviously with Steve leaving. We had some personnel changes over there, changed companies, all that. So we've got a lot of stuff going on over there. Been a crazy week for me. But I appreciate you guys having me on here. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to listen to more Joey, you can catch him at Inside the Monster. You write for Sports Illustrated as well, right?
I do. Yeah. You can find me over there, si.com/Red Sox or whatever. Something like that.
Right. Awesome. All right, Benny, any last words?
No. Thanks, Joe, for coming on. It was nice to talk baseball for a change.
We've been a lot of Patriots lately.
Yeah, with everything coming down, obviously draft's a month away. Nice to change it up, and we bet, no pun intended, we'll be back in the swing of things in a couple days.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next week, this is Raise the Banner signing off. Take care.
Have a good night.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.